Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Today we come with new proofs of ocean level rise and submerging of Dwarka, and the more additional proofs are coming. And with us we have a great researcher friend Muni, and you can say great thinker, and also everything substantiated by fact and evidences. You are free to challenge him anywhere you want, and this is the first researcher, unlike the western researchers who just like to do commentary, but we do with a elan. We would do it with a confidence. So without delay, let us welcome my great friend, Nilesh Nilkant Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji.
Namaskar.
And I
Welcome.
will add, you said unlike Western researchers, I'll say also unlike many Eastern researchers too, who, who will also say things but will not have evidence to back it up. And because many people in the social media will send me somebody's note, somebody's PowerPoint presentation, a slide from it, or a note saying, "What do you think about it?" or stuff like that. It's actually, frankly, waste of time. But I take that as an educational opportunity, and I say usually most of the time, 99-100% of the time, I have to write Hitchens razor. A claim made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, and that is true for, unfortunately, for many our researchers too.
That's true, and I was just trying to be safe with our Indian researchers, and
Well,
and
I want to be truthful. Yeah, and I know that you have to say the truth, you have to say the right way, and you have to say in a pleasant way. But also there is a room for sama dama dandabhed. So
exactly.
right. If after telling them pleasantly many times, if they don't understand, then maybe they don't understand that language. We have to change the language.
Actually, Samdam Beda Dhand is called Upay in Sanskrit.
Mhm,
Upay means the
mhm.
solutions.
Solutions.
But
Yeah.
three they miss out: Mantra, Aushadhi, and Indrajal.
Hmm.
The total seven,
Hmm.
but they quote only the first four.
Yeah.
So people who do not follow a mantra of honesty, then also they miss out.
Mhm.
And Aushadhi, sometimes you're sick, you need Aushadhi.
Yeah.
And Indrajal is without strategy, nothing works.
Yeah. True,
So
true, true. Yeah. So me calling out these things on your show is part of that Indrajal.
that's a good one.
Okay.
So with Indrajal, we'll focus, and our attention is because Western authors are not born from India, and sometimes they are very right. I do give credit to some of them who have done a genuine research,
Yeah.
but all the researchers have to be certified by the
Hmm.
people from India. Like at least like some kind of, just like for example, if Indians do a research on Bible, they have to first run it by their scholars. But
Correct.
so far, we have seen that they certify, they write something, and they don't take any acknowledgement from Indians, and they certify that that is right.
Right.
So that is
And the acknowledgement cannot be from any Indian,
any Indian. That's right.
right? Because there is a whole lot of there, right? I mean, most of the TV anchors and whatnot. I mean, they're Indians, but
Yeah.
you cannot go and just because they happen to get some certificate degree from Oxford or Columbia. I mean, Chicago and Harvard. I
The same
mean,
logic, like if you are talking about dharma, you're
yeah,
not going to go to the Indian grocer and say dharma
you
ko
got it.
validate kari.
You got it. What a great metaphor. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So let's get started.
Okay.
एक बार, you check your screens, and
Sure. Yeah,
meanwhile
you need to enable me, I think. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm there.
but for viewers, if you have any questions, you can always ask on the YouTube, or while the sessions are going on, you can send it to your hosts so that we can answer it in the show itself. Now we got a super chat which is working on our channels also. You can send me a question on the side also. So please continue, Nilesh. So
Okay, all right. So today I want to give a breaking update. Now, this is in the context of the flooding and destruction of Dwarka, Krishna's Dwarka. I think we need to specify because the foundation of Dwarka goes very old, goes back to a long time before Mahabharata. We have archaeological evidence that tells us that the area of Dwarka, of course, in our ancient narratives, it was called Kushasthali. That is based on purely on the archaeological evidence. It is 30,000 plus years old. Okay, 30,000 plus years old, purely based on archaeology evidence. The objects that are found in that area under the ocean and that are dated. But we are talking of the Krishna's Dwarka, which is the Mahabharata war happened 5561 BCE, and the Mahabharata text tells us that Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and thus destroyed by gushing sea waters that came inside the Dwarka, and that happened 36 years after the Mahabharata war. So, so that evidence, Adityaji and myself, we have shared with you on the via Sathology in the past, and that evidence is very impressive. But very recently, and when I say very recently, about last 6 months ago, in last 6 months or so, a phenomenal evidence has come out to light. And I have not discussed on with Adityaji, but I have discussed in the social media. But something else that happened, which right in this month, in the month of January, one of the researchers who did that study gave another presentation at the beginning of January. And in that presentation, he shared some findings which are not even published yet in the research paper that they published in August of 2020. And therefore, I'm calling it a breaking update. And I want to share that with you. And it's just amazing when you do the things right, and when you do it not with any agenda, but with the truth. And guess what? We are trying our best to get to the truth. The best we can achieve is the approximation to the truth. But when your attitude is right, the integrity is there, and there is energy and there is enthusiasm. Okay, so satyameva jayate is the route that you are taking. It's amazing how the evidence or whatever that comes out, new evidence comes out. It falls like a jigsaw puzzle. And I'll mention something else before going into the oceanography evidence. I don't know, Adityaji, if I have discussed that with you. Uh, let's say maybe a year ago, or yeah, it could be a year ago now. It was in a Twitter. And there is one wonderful author. She writes novels based on the ancient Indian narratives as a theme, Sai Swarupa Iyer. And someone I would actually connect her with you. You know, that would be great. Amazing writer. But what she was doing, I'm sure that will come out in some form as a book. She was doing a very detailed study of the 18 days of the Mahabharata war, like from the Mahabharata descriptions. So when and she was posting some of her findings on Twitter as a thread. And so I asked her, it says, you know, that's great, whatever is your objective. If you come across anything that sounds like astronomy, can you please throw it by my way? That's something I would have missed. Lo and behold, she found, I mean, she identified and let me know at least close to 10, they could be higher, astronomy observations. And lo and behold, I had missed them. Okay, I had missed them after reading Mahabharata 30 plus times, just looking for astronomy observation. That is the nature of Mahabharata. What is more astonishing is that all 10 of them, that new so-called new observation that she found, they perfectly match for 5561 BC. That is the amazing part about it, including on the 17th or 18th day of the war. There is a description, like when Shalya and Yudhishthir are fighting the last day. There is a description that their fighting is compared with the Saturn and Moon fighting. Now I'm saying, you know, Saturn and Moon is not even a typical comparison, because the planet is compared with the planet, Sun, Moon is together, you know, Mars and Venus and Jupiter, you see that all the time, Mars and Saturn. But Saturn and Moon, but guess what? 5561 BCE, you can show right there. In fact, during the night of 18th, like 17th and 18th day, the only moving celestial bodies besides the fixed stars that are there in the sky almost the whole night are Saturn and Moon. Lo and behold. Okay, so I'm saying if you do it the right way, then the evidence, new evidence, that whatever comes fits like a jigsaw puzzle, and I'm going to show you that. So quickly, what I'm going to share you in the first portion is something that I have already shared with you, and that show that particular episode exists as flooding and destruction of Dwarka, or when did the Dwarka was destroyed, and 5525 BCE. So oceanography evidence sudden sea level rise in the mid 6th millennium BC. We have some geology students. You would definitely appreciate that, and of course the others too. So let's begin with the framework for the scientific method. So as I said, the Mahabharata war happened 5561 BCE. Mahabharata text says that Dwarka was flooded by the gushing sea waters coming into Dwarka and was destroyed 36 years after the war. Therefore, based on this, the inference is that the Dwarka must have been destroyed 5525 BCE. But now we have to ask the question, if that's our inference, that's our conclusion, do we have any evidence in support of it? Because the prediction of 5525 BC is not based on any oceanography or geology evidence. It is based on the astronomy evidence. Okay, but is there any flooding, destruction, geological ground evidence related to that flooding and destruction of Dwarka in 5525 BC? The answer is yes, a very resounding yes. Astrology and chronology we already discussed, because astrology gives you astronomy gives you 5561 BC. Chronology gives you that additional 36 years, and it gave you 5525 BC. Now we are going to discuss the oceanography evidence. Okay, so this is a summary, by the way, Aditya ji. There are many papers. In 2016 or so, I found close to 50. Then in the next year or so, I got additional 50. And in many ways, they explain and they support this 5525 BCE. However, so 100 plus papers, 100 plus peer-reviewed research papers related to the sudden sea level rise. But I am going to present 3 that I have presented before, because the evidence is very crisp and clean and clear, and so very easy to understand. The first data point comes from the Caribbean. The second data point comes from the Turkey, okay, the border of Asia and Europe, and the third, of course, from the Dwarka region. So this is a revision in some ways. I'm not telling you anything new, so I'm going to go very fast through this. Dr. Paul Blanchon, he did his PhD in geology, where I did my master's in chemical engineering in Canada, University of Alberta. This is going back 25 plus years, 1995. He started with Barbados, but then he also explored 6 other locations, so total of 7 locations. And what he found is that everyone should know this, and the geology, our geology doctor students would know that, those who are present today, that after the last glacial maximum, LGM, some 20,000 plus years ago, the sea level is continuously rising. So if you look at this, that sea level is indeed rising, that's given. However, what Paul Blanchon found out is that there are certain instances when there was a sudden sea level rise, okay? And what they call it in their paper, this paper was also published 1995, I would like to think, they call it CRE, catastrophic rise event. And there are 3 of these in last 20,000 years. The one that is of interest to us because of the evidence coming from other disciplines of science like astronomy and chronology and whatnot, bringing us back to 5525 BCE. Note down the timing of this. 7.6 K, that is 7,600 before present, which is approximately 5,600 before BCE. And what happened? A sudden sea level rise, 6.5 meters plus 2.5 meters. And if you do the timing, that exactly is what? 5,600 BC plus minus 100 years, 130 years, and sudden sea level rise. At 7 different locations, we have the evidence in the Caribbean. Just note down that 5525 falls into this 5,600 BC plus minus 100 plus minus 130 years. Quickly, the second data point. If you come to the border of Europe and Asia, that is in Turkey, Istanbul. So we have this Istanbul airport right here, this green dot where you see just next to that, and then you see the Bosphorus channel. So this is a Black Sea here, but if you go on the south side, we have the Sea of Marmara, then we have the Aegean Sea, which connects with the Mediterranean Sea, and then it eventually, of course, near Spain and Portugal, connects to the Atlantic Sea. Now, what is interesting to note is that if we go back in the past, okay, let's say, just for the sake of it, let's say more than 8,000 years ago, guess what? The Black Sea, as we know today, the brackish water sea, simply did not exist. Okay. And I have discussed that, of course, on this show. It was a freshwater lake. Okay. And some rivers from the north were meeting it. And it wasn't this wide, by the way. But something suddenly happened at one point. The sea levels rose in the Mediterranean Sea. That may be because of the Atlantic Sea. Then the Mediterranean water came to Aegean Sea came to Sea of Marmara, and eventually that high water pressure broke through the Bosphorus Channel, and then the salty water started pouring in at a very high pace, high velocity, high volume on the other side, the north side. And that small freshwater, sweetwater lake instantaneously, so to say, became a brackish sea. Okay, that's now Black Sea. Now, when did this happen? There are two geologists from the Columbia University, again, geology department, Ryan and Pittman. And again, our geology students can go and look at their work. I mean, I have personally done correspondence with a few of them. Very, very helpful. What they have shown is this. On the left side, without taking you through the technical details, but our geology students can again understand what they mean. There are 9 different specific parameters in of the study at the Black Sea, Bosphorus Channel, and that area. And what they are showing, all of them consistently, that the conversion of this freshwater lake into suddenly brackish sea, which is now what we call Black Sea, was essentially instantaneous. It's like, not in this model here, not the gradual inflow model, but the catastrophic flood model. Now, just imagine what the timing was for this. You can quickly read from that vertical line there, but I'll not make you go through that. I'll give you the answer. The timing comes out very consistently is that 7,550 calendar years, adjusted it's 5550 BCE, and a very powerful evidence. The standard error is very small, like 30, 40, 50 years. So 5550 plus minus 50 years. Okay, just note down that the claim for the flooding and destruction of Dwarka by gushing sea waters in 5525 BCE falls into this range. Quickly come to the west coast of India and the whole Arabian Sea. There are many studies that have been done, and this graph becomes very important. There are 4 or 5 graphs there showing sudden flooding in all parts of the world. Okay, but specific 7 studies in the Arabian Sea area, therefore west coast of India too, on the left side, the diagram that I'm showing. And notice what is happening in the Arabian Sea. So therefore, in the direct context of Dwarka, I'm going to draw some vertical lines so it's easy to see. So this first 2 lines from the left, dotted lines, vertical lines, is between 5,000 and 6,000 BCE. And remember, our 5525 BCE is right in the middle of this year. So what do you see? You see a sudden sea level rise of up to 15 meters, 15 meters times 3 would be like a 45, 50 feet. Okay. Suddenly, during one particular millennium, you can call half the middle of the 6th millennium. Okay. And then that, almost as if that process continued, and another 8 meters were added in the next millennium, the early part of next millennium. Now, this is just based on the data. In reality, we don't know the exact mechanism. It can be in few steps. It can be one sudden one, doesn't matter. In fact, when the seawater went up, it went 3 meters above the current sea level, mean sea level of today. Okay, 3 meters above. Remember, that's around like a 5,000, 4,500 BCE. And remember, it stayed that way. Here the graph is showing it's practically stayed that way until 2000 BC, and it started coming down after that, and then it came to our today's height. Also, you can see some other data point graphs which says that maybe there was some regression of these waters even before the 2000 BC. Please keep this in mind. Okay, this one is a very important graph if you want to understand the breaking evidence. Okay, so this is what I had covered with you until now. Now the breaking update, and then I'm going to bring you back to this particular graph that I showed you. This graph, remember, it's from the Arabian Sea. Okay, in Indian context, Ramayana calls it Sindhu Sagar, and this is on the west coast of India where Dwarka is. Now what I'm going to show you is the east coast of India. Before I do that, Aditya ji, you want to add anything? You want to?
I have
Um,
one question, and just
yeah,
based on this chart which you showed just now,
yeah, I'll go
is
back
that
to that. Yeah.
if we just a hypothetical scenario
Hmm.
that if all the glaciers were to melt,
Hmm.
Arctic and Antarctic,
Hmm.
because like the law of energy works here, energy is always constant, water is also prakriti.
Yeah.
So if all the waters were to melt, then how
Hmm.
much the ocean level is supposed to rise total?
Okay. Well, there are different estimates, and see, the estimate, these are always will be estimates, and this is not the first time that has happened. If you go back, say,
Like
100,000 years, 200,000 years, 300,000 years, in the geological cycles, you can see actually sea levels going up and sea levels going down. If you remember with Mrs. Rupa Bhattiji, when she talks about the Bruhadrath, right,
yeah,
going back to 35,000 BC, Bruhadrath is talking about the regression of the oceans.
correct.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
35,000 BC. Okay,
Yeah.
so just simplify, call it 35,000 years ago, and that is a fact. And we, what he's saying is validated by what was happening. So
Yes.
this has happened many times. But to answer your question, I have seen. I mean, you can estimate for all different areas. I have seen for Atlanta and my, my. I mean, for Georgia. And my humor is, I said, global warming people will sometime at the workplace or wherever they are discussing. And I said, yeah, I understand, but hey, we are in Atlanta. Why should we worry? The ocean would be closer to us. Right now we need to drive for 5 hours. But just to give you an example, if you're familiar with this area, the savannah,
Savannah.
which is ocean, that all will be underwater. I
Hmm.
mean, instead of driving from here for 5 6 hours, we would need to drive for only 2.5 to 3 hours. Rest of the area there would be underwater.
That's pretty high, for like 5,000 feet approximately.
No,
Four to
no,
five.
no. Height won't be that much. No, no. No, because if you go further towards savannah, then it gets flat.
Hmm.
At some point. So more of a ingression will come. But the point is, how much current land will go under the water also depends on a complex geography mechanism. Again, our geography students can tell more, which is the subsidence of the land. So while the water is coming, it's not the land is just sitting there. Sometimes land can actually go down, in which case much more land will be covered. Other cases, the land can actually come up, which has happened in Dwarka area, by the way, the Gujarat area, where now some of the places like Dolavira or Lothal are no longer ports. One thing is because the water has gone down. You can see in this map the 3 meters water that was up, and this is the average number. In some places it could be 10 meters, and other places it could be 1 meter. Based on the location. But remember, these Lothal and Dolavira, they were functional ports during the so-called Indus Valley Saraswati civilization, the
Correct.
last phase of Saraswati civilization. And when did they stop being a ports? Around 2000 BC. And this graph exactly tells us why so. Because that's when the water came down, and it came down to our current level. But what has also happened in Dolavira, Lothal, and those places is that irrespective of the water, the land has also gone up. That's called subsidence, and it can go in a plus minus direction. But what I want our viewers and Aditya for you to remember is this graph, where sudden sea level rise. This is very important to understand that breaking news, breaking update. Sudden sea level rise of 15 and then total of 23 meters in that fifth millennium BC, then kind of staying that way up until 2000 BC. There are some instances when it has gone down, and then eventually coming down to 3 meters down and our level by our time. Okay, so this is the evidence that I have discussed with you before in the context of flooding and destruction of Dwarka. Now let me discuss this. This paper is from August 2020. So in that sense, in the scientific world, we can say it hot from the press, very fresh. And still, what I am showing you on the left side is not discussed by him, not discussed by Professor, this one here, Soma, I don't want to say the wrong name, Professor Soma Sundar Ramaswamy. He gave one presentation and he discussed this evidence, this slide here, which is based on the research presented here, but it's not discussed, it was not discussed in their paper. So but he discussed that in the month of January. Okay, very, very amazing evidence. Now some of it is they did discuss in the paper. Now Aditya ji, this also has implications for Ramayana, by the way. In fact, I forgot now where it was, maybe on Sattology. uh, I gave the Sugriva's Atlas, like the first part or something like this. And then somebody asked me the question, so, oh, you are saying Ramayana 12,000 BC, like 14,000 years ago. But where was the technology? I mean, how did Ravana went by boats, and how did human beings travel by boats? Here is the evidence. We are talking 12,000 BC. What this is showing, by the way, this is showing actually going back to more than 12,000. This is going to 20,000. See, so let me explain what we are seeing here. This line is, this vertical line here is the current boundary on the eastern coast of India, Tamil Nadu. So left of this is a land, and right of this is the ocean today, okay, of this vertical line. But now we are going back to say 20,000 years ago. So if you went back 20,000 years ago, guess what? The place called Pumpuhar, okay, this is very close to Chidambaram in Tamil Nadu. The Pumpuhar port was actually here, what you see here, P1. Okay, 20,000 years ago. The point is, it was a functional port 20,000 years ago. So people from archaeology, our archaeologist friends who are stuck, where is the evidence? This is archaeology evidence. Okay, there is a port 20,000 years ago. And what happened is, sometime between 16,000 and 8,000 BC, now you see that a gray area. So slowly from the last glacial maximum, the water is coming up. And sometime between this time, that port was underwater. So this P1 is underwater. Okay, so that's our evidence number one. Then notice the port, like here P2, and you'll also see P3 here, and the current one is here. Okay, so I'm going to take you to the next level. This is where the Kaveri river comes and meets the ocean, by the way. Sometime between 8,000 BC and 7,000 BC, that is still after Ramayana, but before the Mahabharata timing, the water levels are rising. They're rising slowly. And this second port, so what happened? The Pumpuar folks, when this port went underwater, they shifted the port. That's what they have done in Dholavira, and now we have a port in what, right? Rajkot. I mean, wherever the Kandla, where our Mrs. Bhattiji is, Kandla port. Now it's a ocean port, right? Something like that. So between 8,000 BC and 7,000 BC, the rising water levels flooded this second port called P2. And now you can see this port P3 here. And this vertical line again is our current boundary of a land and an ocean. So by 7,000 BCE, the P2 port was gone. Again, they moved the port back towards the land. That is the P3. Now, interesting part comes. Now the third time is going to come. And what will happen is, when I explain the third water ingression, seawater, this P3 port will also go away. Okay, going to go away. Except the difference is, when the first port went away, that was only that port area was gone. I mean, not like an ingression of water, sea level rising. Second time also only that happened. But when the P3 went away, and you'll see what a wonderful correlation it is, that time it just the water did not stop by just destroying the P3 port. Okay, but I'm going to show you what happened. So this is a map of Tamil Nadu, that same area. So Pumpuhar that I showed you is right here. And few places I want to mention because they are very important. This one is called Mailaduturai. Okay, Mailaduturai, or its another name is Mayuram. Okay, and then few places noted down. Nangur is another place here, and Sri Kali is another place. Okay, again referring to the goddess Sri Kali. And this is Nangur, and this is Mailaduturai. Okay, and Pumpuhar. So we are talking after 7,000 BCE. Okay, guess what? Sometime between 6,000 BC and 4,000 BC, and that should remind you of some years such as 5561 BCE or 5525 BCE. That falls between those, because we don't have an exact bracket right now. The only bracket, which is impressive, by the way, we have a period of 2000 years, 6000 BC to 4000 BC. This is when that port P3 that I showed you here, just east of modern day Pumpuhar, that was flooded by the seawater. But this time something very interesting. It did not stop by just destroying that port. The seawater completely made a ingression, okay? It transgressed all the boundaries and came all the way. Just guess what? It came all the way to Mayuram, or the other name of that place in our times is Mailaduturai, and it's still called Mayuram as well. The water came all the way to Mayuram. Okay, now that should remind you of the graph I showed you on the west coast, like
Right.
8, or what is that, 15 meters of gushing water in, or suddenly rising water, or 8 meters afterwards. And then remember, it stayed there up to 2000 BC, but there are some data points which shows that it was regressing back to the ocean. Now that's what we are going to see now. Okay, so this came into this. Now, between 6000 BC and 4000 BC, essentially what happened, when the water came in, gushing in, it did not just stop by destroying this port 3, but it came all the way ingress, ingression all the way to this place called Mayuram, which is what I showed you. And essentially, what Professor Ramaswamy explained is that the Mayuram became the new Pumpuhar port between 6000 and 4000 BC. That is what these arrows are showing. Okay, the arrows going out, the boats have to go from here now, between 6000 and 4000 BC. Almost you can think of the same thing for the, what is that, Lothal and Dolavira and stuff like that. Okay, or maybe sometime slightly after. So that's what I'm going to show you. So it came here. Now what happens? Once we come down, the time passes. Between 4000 and 3000 BC, the water actually receded from this Mayuram back towards the ocean to Srikali. Okay, here. So this is the arrow. So I'm just drawn an arrow from Mayuram, like vertical here, and then a horizontal arrow going towards the ocean. So the sea started receding. I'm saying there is a evidence of that. The receding sea from Mayuram to Srikali between 4000 BC and 3000 BC. If you saw the dotted line graph, and I'll show you afterwards, you can match that. So something is happening after 4000 BC, even on the west coast. Okay, not all data points, but some of the data points. So the water came back to, say, Srikali, okay, or along that line. Then if you, so this is what it is showing. So between 4000 BC, 3000 BC, so from Mayuram, the water is receding and it is up to Sri Kaji or Sri Kali here. Okay, right, like that. So what happens between this time now? Sri Kali becomes as if a Pumpuhar port. That's why you are seeing these arrows going out, and those arrows are there is evidence of these places acting as a port, although now on the land. Okay, same thing with the Mayuram. That's how they are done this research. So between 4000 to 3000, the sea has receded to Sarkari. Okay, now, so that's what I'm again showing here. Then between 3000 and 2000 BC, they have showed the evidence that the sea receded further from Sri Kali to Nangur. Okay, here. And then between 2000 BC to today, or by say 2000 years ago, by 500 BC or so, the sea receded further back to where the current Pumpuhar port is. Okay, so you can also see that in this evidence here. So think of it, 6000 BC to 4000 BC. So think of that as a 5525 BC. Not only this P3 was destroyed, but the water ingressed all the way to Mayuram. Then from 4000 BC to 3000 BC, it came to Sarkari. From 3000 to 2000, it came from Sarkari to Nangur. And from 2000 BC to 500 BC or so, it came from Nangur to Pumpuhar, which is the modern day Pumpuhar port. Okay. So that is just a quick summary of what it did. Now I'm just showing you the comparison of the two charts. So here I just described it, so I won't repeat it, what I just did. But now do the comparison with this chart here. So what you see is that a plus 3 meter rise above the mean sea level by 5000 BC. And then you see, if you follow this dotted line, that you do see around 4000 BC, some regression, some regression of ocean, not all data points. So may not have happened in all places. And then the regression continues in a slow fashion, but especially after 2000 BC, it quickly accelerates and gets to the current location of um, on the east coast Pumpuhar, and on the west coast gets to the current level of mean sea levels. Okay, so now west coast Dwarka, that's a very powerful evidence from the east coast supporting it. It supports the Mahabharata date. It supports the flooding and destruction of Dwarka. But somebody, and maybe because somebody is going to be Adityaji, you, I will ask you what is its connection for Ramayana. But quickly, the summary is so I'm going to ask you. I mean, maybe you should ask me what is the connection for Ramayana, and I'll come to that. But quickly, let me summarize. So, flooding and destruction of Dwarka in 5525 BC. We began with 300 plus astronomy evidence, and we have not discussed this on a Satyology yet. Arundhati, Vasishta, Bhishma, Nirvana, phases and positions. At one point, we will do it. It may take actually many episodes. Okay, so I don't want to bore people with that too, and maybe they should read my books, especially the first book, When Did the Mahabharata War Happen, and also Bhishma Nirvana, before we do that on Satyology. The narrative evidence for flooding gave us that 36 years, that brought us to 5525 BCE. Sudden sea level rise that I showed you in the Caribbean 7 location perfectly corroborates 5525 BCE. Sudden formation of Black Sea at the European and Asian boundary in 5550 BC plus minus 50 years perfectly corroborates 5525 BC. Sudden sea level rise of 15 meters in 6th millennium and further 8 meters in 5th millennium BC on the Arabian Sea, Sindhu Sagar, west coast of India, near Dwarka, followed by receding of sea level to our times, perfectly corroborates 5525 BC. And now that the breaking evidence that I just shared, a sudden sea transgression during 6000 BC through 4000 BC, followed by receding of sea levels. So from what is that, Mayuram going to Srikali to Nangur, and Nangur to Pumpuhar, that happening very much the way it is explained by Professor Ramaswamy on the East Coast is exactly how you can corroborate on the West Coast. Okay, so that's what happened. This is my books, and our folks have seen it, so I don't need to spend time on this. But what I want to, maybe I can ask you as a trick question, Aditya ji, which is now
Scared now.
let no, yeah, I want to scare you. I want to scare you. So let me ask you. So now that you are scared, I want to scare you more. So this one is a very impressive evidence for flooding and destruction of Dwarka in 5525 BCE. But I also said this is very important evidence for Ramayana dating. Okay, and Ramayana dating in both ways, in a positive way and a negative way. The positive way, okay, is like sowing the seeds in the garden. Okay, it supports 12,000 BC, especially people who are worried, oh, but there was no technology there was no seafaring. It says, which world do you live in? Which world, right? Archaeological evidence is so strong. But do you know something? Majority of the alternate claims for the timing of Ramayana are in the 6th millennium BC,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
So Pushkar Bhatnagar ji,
Yes.
like late Pushkar Bhatnagar ji, his date is 5114 BC for Ramayana, which just so that people, our audience sees that falls 500 years after my Mahabharata date, 5561 BC.
Yes.
Then who else is there? I don't remember all the names, but there are some who are into the 5th millennium also. Like they say 44 something, 4400 BCE. Sri Vedvir Aryaji has like his date is like 100 years before my Mahabharata date for Ramayana, like 5600 BC. Now, why is this evidence a solid evidence that falsifies any claim for Ramayana in the 6th millennium BC or any time after? Because of the flooding.
Because of
Because
flooding.
right, because I am showing you the evidence here near Chidambaram. So from here, this is here. You see, actually, you can see in the map here. Look, this is where Chidambaram is. Okay, if you can see this here, this is Chidambaram. If you follow this coast from Pumpuhar and go down, very soon you are going to reach Rameshwaram. And those people who have studied that area well, they know that the current Rameshwaram temple is not that old. In fact, when the water came up, it was rebuilt. I don't know the exact timing, but it was rebuilt. Okay.
Pratibhu Mandir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
image.
what is, yeah, but what is interesting is these people who want to who are stuck in the 6th millennium BCE for Ramayana, they have to accept that is the area, and that's how they try to explain the Rama Setu and all kinds of things. What is interesting is when in the 6,000 BC and between 4,000 BC, when the water came up all the way to Mayuram, guess what? Where the current Rameshwari is, that was completely underwater,
Yes,
completely underwater.
correct.
Okay, so unless somebody is telling us that, oh no, no, but they decided to still build inside the water, now that is their choice. That is the one reason I'm saying this is a decisive evidence corroborating flooding and destruction of Dwarka in 6th millennium BC, supporting Mahabharata war in 6th millennium BC, but it also falsifies any claim for Ramayana in 6th millennium BC, and of course 5th millennium BC. I mean,
Correct.
those are gone, and therefore I said it's a very powerful evidence. You know the typical saying, two birds in one stone. Right? Okay, so that's a very fresh evidence. In fact, I am still waiting for the paper from Professor Ramaswamy, and he conveyed that actually a couple of papers are in publication stage right now. So the evidence that he discussed is not in that much detail into the August 2020 research paper, but it is going to come out into a couple of new papers that they are working on in publication stage right now. So that was all I wanted to say. And quickly, the book. So before Adityaji, we get into the phenomenal, impressive evidence from either Mahabharata or Ramayana, and I would say we will do Mahabharata first whenever we start, because discussing Mahabharata date and showing why 5561 BC is the right one also does the job of two birds in one, because that also gets rid of the other alternate Ramayana claims, which are at the same time as Mahabharata or after. But before we do that, it's I would encourage all the viewers, as their time and circumstances permit, to pick a copy of this book, When Did the Mahabharat War Happen? And don't look for this cover, because that's only available in India, these three. So these, if you go to Amazon, those of you who are in America, if you go to Amazon, either type my name or just type the title of the book itself, which is Bhishma Nirvana, Historic Rama, or When Did the Mahabharat War Happen? And for understanding Mahabharata dating, you need to read When Did the Mahabharata War Happen, and also Bhishma Nirvana. You can hold on to, you can just wait to read the Historic Rama for a while. But I will say definitely start with either Bhishma Nirvana or When Did the Mahabharata War Happen. So with that, Aditya ji, unless you have questions on the graph, I can stop sharing.
So actually, I have one question because you asked me tricky question about Ramayana, and I was difficult for
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
So now, so if we go by this, then we can easily summarize that Lanka may be a different place, like you presented last time.
Correct.
That's one
Correct.
point, and
Yeah.
also the Nala Setu.
Huh.
Nala Setu is one thing which comes under question because Nal Setu must be underwater totally.
Yeah.
And now it's because the oceans have receded, so it's started visible, becoming visible again.
Yeah. That is one, but let me add something to Nala Setu. And by the way, I'm not saying I have the answer to the Nala Setu or even the final location of Lanka. I'm not saying that. Um, Actually, it's the evidence from astronomy, astronomy text of India, evidence from Puranas, and evidence from the Greek records, okay, as well as the original evidence from the Valmiki Ramayana itself, is making us question the identification of Sri Lanka with Lanka. Okay, it's not like some agenda driven that, for some reason I don't like Lanka. No, nothing like that. In fact, I gave a presentation some time ago to the tourism department of the government of Sri Lanka. I don't know if I told you about that. Discussing the Ramayana. So like they have many Ramayana sites. I mean, in a devotional spirit, you can worship Shivalinga anywhere. You can worship Krishna anywhere, right? Krishna may not have been to North America during his avatar, 7,500 years ago, but we have so many Krishna temples here. So same thing, it can happen. So actually, I gave a presentation. It was very well received by the tourism department of the government of Sri Lanka. We are also doing few projects with them, by the way. So it has nothing to do with. It's not been driven by some agenda. No, actually, and you and me have discussed this, that Ravana's control, Ravana could be controlling significant portions of southern India. We definitely know he was controlling most of Maharashtra. Okay, so my Ratnagiri would be under his control possibly, and your Solapur would be under his control too.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like a Jai Ravana kind of thing. So it's not driven by that, but we have a sufficient evidence which points us towards the what you call southwest corner. See, even the Rakshasas, they are called Niruttas, right?
Correct.
Niruttas, and that is the direction. I mean, there is so much there. Astronomy texts talk about it. So your point was, where is the Nala Setu? And my point is, remember, if you see the descriptions how the Nala Setu was built, granted they were throwing stones into the ocean. There is a description of that. And by the way, they did not float as the typical story goes. Okay, actually the description says that when they used to throw the stone used to go down and the water used to come out. I mean, there is a description in Valmiki Ramayana.
Right.
That's a totally different subject. And then they use bamboos, trees, ropes
To tie the
so
to tie the stones together.
to tie the stone, right? No, and to make a, like, I don't know if you have seen those in my area where I grew up, a very tropical kind of place. During the rainy season, 4 months of rainy season, they would build a temporary bridge to cross the small rivers and streams and so on.
Mhm.
So it was something of that kind too, by the way. So yes, there was a stone foundation, but we shouldn't imagine like a concrete bridge that we see today.
Hmm.
And so unless we see a fossilized trees or stuff like that, what we would imagine is that the ropes and all that stuff would actually wither away. So we may not able to see that stuff. I mean, that is another thing that we should look for. Okay, so let me see. We stopped sharing, no? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So another point which comes to the mind that and I think viewers, we will tag that video, the old video on Ramayana. If you want to see, there is already Sugriva's atlas, and to the south where we have actually covered the Setu and where the probable location of Lanka is. It's already covered.
Correct.
On
And Dwarka also. So
Dwarka
we should
also.
also tie that Dwarka video, previous video, to this one. Yeah.
Correct. So if you see those videos, then the 100 yojana jump,
Huh.
Mahendragiri,
Yeah.
and it's in a different direction altogether.
Correct.
And so that exactly fits in with the new description, because see, Lanka may be a series of tapu also, islands
Yeah.
also. So
Yes.
Ashok Vatika can be on a different island,
Correct. Correct.
because it doesn't fit in, because if Ravan was so big king, he must have the ability that, like he was, Devta were scared of him.
Hmm.
So he must be having multiple islands. So it
Yes.
may not be just story of one island.
Correct. Correct. No, that's a good point. And if you see Valmiki Ramana description, even when Rama starts from Kishkinda, see, if he was going eastward, like towards what we call modern day Rameshwaram, he
Correct.
could have gone through some flatter areas, like Hyderabad, I mean, Andhra Pradesh area, and down to like a Bangalore, Chennai highway kind of that
Correct.
area. He hasn't. There are descriptions of he following the Sayadri range
Yeah.
in the Valmiki Ramayana. And then if you look at the Angada and Sampati and all those, you're looking the mountainous area. Whereas right now, if you go to Rameshwaram, that area, there is no mountainous area.
No,
It
flat.
is very flat. Yeah.
And also he crosses Pampa Sarovar, which is, and again down
Which
south
is before, yeah, Tungabhadra. Pampa
Tungabhadra.
Sarovar is identified with Tungabhadra, but he was there. I mean, you can say with the Kishkinda, so he was already at Tungabhadra.
Followed a line, vertical line down.
That is what Angada and Hanuman and Jambavan also followed when they were looking for Sita.
Correct.
Okay, and the other day I was talking to I forgot who, whether Jivan Rao or Mrs. Bhatti, that the cave of Swayam Prabha.
Hmm.
Now I don't know, Aditya ji, if you have been to what is that place? Tekadi. Have you been to the place called Tekadi, like in
Yes.
the Kerala?
Kerala.
If you take that highway from Kerala to Tamil Nadu, like towards Madurai via Tekadi, and you see that's like a perfect spot for the so-called cave or the valley of a Swayamprabha.
Yes.
But you will not find such a terrain on the east side, the entire Tamil Nadu, actually, the eastern portion.
So the 800 100 yojana jump is around 800-mile jump. It's a long jump.
It's a long jump. Yeah,
and in between there were some islands and which are shown with different people.
correct.
I think a lot needs to be documented, and I think people should read your books
Yeah.
and find out more. For viewers who have stayed long in this discussion, I know you're enjoying it, but our windows are coming to a close.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
So, yes, go ahead. You're saying something?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that, I mean, I'm not researching more on the Lanka myself, but Mrs. Rupa Bhati
Uh-huh.
is working on it. She's working on that book, actually, The Tale of Three Cities. So Kurukshetra, Avanti, and Lanka. That is kind of the working title. And Jeevan Rao has also. I have to connect Jeevan Rao with you. He has also done some good work on this. But his greatest work is on the Kali Yuga, beginning of Kali Yuga and Mahabharata. That is what I was talking to him about.
Right.
So
I think with the dates getting revised, one thing is for sure, the Western narration on dates on the
hmm,
birth of Buddha and everything comes into question. Directly.
definitely, definitely,
And with all the astronomical astrological evidences, and so the Buddha that they described, because there is no mention of Buddha attaining enlightenment anywhere.
hmm,
So it also brings the modern chronology up to Vishwas Purji.
hmm,
Vishwas Purji is the name which is mentioned, which is people say the Gupta period. So
hmm.
all these dates will come into question, and so we are, to summarize, we are in a much more ancient civilization that we ever thought.
Very good. That's a good way to summarize it. And it's a very exciting thing. And I think we should quickly mention that it's not just we are obsessed with the particular date. We are doing this because the Western Indologists and their lackeys absolutely have right now in the textbook destroyed this whole chronology.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. Like they say that the whole world started 4000 BC, which
Yeah.
is a big joke.
Correct.
Maybe the Mahabharat war ended during that time, and that's what they're talking about.
Even Mahabharat war ended 1500 years before 4000 BC,
Correct.
before the universe began.
Before the universe began. No, I think that should be the reason that because all the Kshatriya were already dead. So now the new world has started after Mahabharat war.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
as much as we enjoy, and I hope you also enjoy the show, uh, do comment on it. And somebody said it's a sitcom. Yes, it is a sitcom, but with
Yeah.
a lot of information. Most of the sitcoms will make you dumb, but this will make you intelligent. So always debunking mythology, and do buy the books of Nilesh Ogji on Amazon or by Subu Publications, and let us know. Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar.